that I would carry power of power told me that it's time to begin. She's known by many as Magistrate Althea Stewart Jones. Welcome to the Circuit Court for Prince George's County. On behalf of our administrative judge, Judge Sheila Tillerson Adams, who is present, and she declined the opportunity to give you this welcome. On behalf of Judge Adams, my colleagues, the judges of the Circuit Court for Prince George's County, our model court team, and the Department of Social Services, particularly the Director, Gloria Brown, welcome to this symposium. Now, I am not one who assigned anyone a responsibility for recognizing people. You're all important. Okay. But I do know Senator Victor Ramirez sent me a letter saying that he's sorry he cannot make it today. We have Council Member Obi Patterson's office emailed me to say that he was sorry he could not make it. We have a representative of, we have Ms. Perry here, and you're representing, okay. Is there any, and the bill is something that we don't have Senator Benson here. Senator Benson is going to talk about, I think it's Senate Bill 685, that, what's that? 655, it is 655. 685. Do I get a 695? Okay. But that Senator Benson is going to talk about that. She enthusiastically responded. Senate President Miller's office called, and I think he was going to. And yes, someone is here. If you can introduce yourself. Thank you. And those elected officials that received invitations received language that sort of suggested, show up if you're interested in this area, or send someone in your office who is interested in this area, because it is very important that everyone understand that we're here today to work and to look at ways of addressing some of the needs of our particularly older youth. Eugene Pickett, with the Office of Law, is unable to be here due to a death in his family. Last message was sent to those persons who have been working on this effort. In less than 12 hours, you will have an opportunity to deliver an important message regarding an underserved and deserving population in our communities. It is an important message to deliver. Regrettably, I will not be with you tomorrow, as I will be on the road to Charleston, South Carolina, to attend the going home services of a beloved family member. Tomorrow's symposium is the culmination of years of effort and work to deliver the message. More importantly, tomorrow's symposium is an important first step to seek answers as to how to better aid our young people as they venture into adulthood. I wish you all the best in delivering the message and look forward to the work it will take to apply what is returned from the symposium to practical services that can be delivered to those deserving young adults in the future. Good luck, Eugene H. Pickett, Associate County Attorney, Prince George's County, Maryland. County Attorney Green, give him a raise. Thank you, but welcome. There's not much more I have to say. Judge Adams, do you wish to make any comment?
Thank you, and good morning. I know I wasn't on the program because I was scheduled to be in court, but my docket fell out this morning, so I did want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone and thank you for being here. But more importantly, I want to thank the committee, Judge Martin and Magistrate Stewart Jones, and all of the members that put this together, because this is so important to our community for us to come together to talk about our children. So on behalf of all of the judges of the Circuit Court, I thank you for being here. Thank you for partaking into this worthy discussion this morning, and thank you for your commitment to the young people of this community.
It's me again. Okay, let me just tell you something about our model courts. Model courts are a creation of the National Council for Juvenile and Family Court Judges. And in Maryland, the Foster Care Court Improvement Project is the agency through which Prince George's County was designated to be a model court. It had the contract with the National Council for Juvenile and Family Court Judges. And in May 27, 2010, Judge Missouri, who was then our administrative judge, issued an administrative order establishing the Prince George's County Circuit Court and specifying our model court team. Now, when I looked at the National Council's site yesterday, there were 34 model courts listed in the country on the issues of child abuse and neglect. They have also begun to focus on juvenile justice, and there are 12 model courts listed. In the state of Maryland, Baltimore City and Charles County are also model courts. You can see by the limited numbers that this is a very special designation. And I'm the lead judge. Our contract, the administrative order pretty much sets forth what's required of us in the contract. And we don't have a contract right now, and that's another issue, and that's an issue. The state doesn't have a contract right now, but nevertheless, we still have access to services, and in fact, we're going to have some input from Alicia Summers, who was working on much of the data for us, so we still have access. Judge Surratt is a member, Ms. Brown, Magistrate Jones, Magistrate Howman Adams, Ms. Battle, our court administrator, Lionel Moore, our Director of Family Division, and Ms. Waldman, Ms. Gahuli, Mr. McIver excused the absence of the Esquire. I apologize for that. But they are respective supervising attorneys for their agency's child advocacy units, so to speak, or with the Public Defender's Office, they're a little more concerned about parents, but nevertheless, child in need of assistance cases. And Mr. McIver is a designee of the Office of Law, and Ms. Anne Marie Binsner, who is with our CASA program, Court-Appointed Special Advocates. And the team, that's what is specified as a team, but as you said, model courts are collaborative efforts. So our team just floats in. There are people, whoever needs to be involved is involved. So it's not just solely those persons. If we go to the site, the Model Courts Project works to identify impediments to the timeliness of court events and delivery of services for families and children, and then design and implement court and agency-based changes to address these barriers. The Permanency Planning Division of the National Council, Department of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges was created in response to the Adoption and Safe Families Act, which represents amendments to the Social Security Act that governs funding, requirements to receive federal funding with regard to children who are in care. Model courts are laboratories for system change. They're advocates for change and models for change. We agree to implement best practices, and we agree to be open to review by other courts and also by assessments. We receive assessments. We're not perfect, so I didn't know how you do it. Well, we have a lead judge. That's Tim. We no longer have a model court liaison, but when we had a model court liaison, there was a lot of work. They really guided us, and it was critical during the first 2 years that we would have one. Talked about the multidisciplinary collaborative team. You notice that the team is not just judges. It's not magistrates. It's representative of all the stakeholders that show up in court from day to day. We no longer have monthly contact with the lead judge. We don't get the assessment site visits. We receive assessment sites visits, and those visits were to review our practices and to make recommendations, to identify resources, and to allow an evaluation from someone from the National Council. We've had cross-sites visits. We don't have a contract right now, and we don't get training under that. We still have access to publications and resources. These books are being redone. They've been reworked, but when we look at best practices, we're really looking at least minimally complying with these things. I have a sample of them here, and if anyone wants them, I have plenty of them. Our mission, we have a specific mission. The mission of our model court is to ensure that every child and family that enters the juvenile court system in Prince George's County receives the best culturally competent services and support needed to effectuate safe and timely permanence. We have a logo. We were using one, but right now we're going to have the youth propose. We're going to have a competition for a logo that's in the works right now. We have specific goals. We were required to have goals. And our goals, we have divided our committee work, our work on the basis of our goals, and we're pulling in all stakeholders with regard to these committee works. To identify all relatives and family of youth, including paternal, as early as possible and to involve them as early as possible. This has been led by Magistrate Kristen Howman Adams. To implement a one judge, master, and one, these are the words, they were masters then, now they're magistrates, okay? To implement one judge, master, and one family model, Judge Surratt is leading that effort. To achieve better outcomes for youth with APLA, that's another planned permanent living arrangement. It's the least preferred of all the permanency plans, but we have youth who are not agreeable to adopting, that we don't have adoptive resources, and they pretty much control that, but we have to look to make certain they have family connections, and we work on those things to make certain they're getting, and who may be emancipating out of the system. That's Magistrate Althea Jones, and that's part of our effort today. To reduce disproportionate minority representation, that chair is Ms. Brown. And to achieve better educational outcomes for our youth, that's been worked through our Senate TPR work group, and Magistrate Ferguson is leading the latest effort on that. What have we gotten? We attended the lead judges and all sites conference meeting and all sites conference in October of 2010. December of 2011, I attended the lead judge conference in Reno, Nevada. We have visited model courts and to observe their proceedings, meet with judges, meet with stakeholders there in Austin, Texas on June of 2011, and in Tucson, Arizona in October of 2012. She's showing 10 minutes, not like I have 10 minutes to go. It's that I've exhausted my time. Okay. Magistrate Howman Adams and I have attended the Child Abuse and Neglect Institute in Reno, Nevada. It's a week-long course there. We've had implicit bias training and courageous conversation training. We've collaborated with other model courts. We have received resource guideline training through retired Judge Sharon McCulley of Utah, and we've had preliminary bench card training. Our initiatives, Fast Track to Permanency Pilot Program, and we've had other things. The reasonable efforts focus on identifying we've identified a protocol there, or at least methods there, practices. The crossover youth practice model, dealing with youth who are in both delinquency and dependency. We've implemented transitional planning and review hearings. We've revived our Senate TPR work group, and we have this symposium right here. I think you have access to an article that our Tower of Power Magistrate Stewart Jones article. I gave her the judge thing because I want her to be a judge someday. I am stepping on Ms. Brown's time. I'm sorry. What's that? I have 5 minutes left? Oh, she scared me so much. Ms. Brown. But thank you.
Thank you, Judge Martin. I don't mind you taking some of my time. Oh, that's fine. I can stay there. very quickly, first of all, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is an opportunity for us to share with you all some of the work that we've been doing over the last 5 years. I think the work has been intense at times, and I am personally impressed at the sustainability and the tenacity that even 5 years later we still have around this project. I want to take a quick moment to recognize the staff from the Department of Social Services that are here. Could you please stand? Thank you. I think it's important that you all be recognized because a good deal of what we talk about up here, we come back to you all and say, now make sure it happens the way that we told you we want it to happen. And you all have done a yeoman's job of helping us move forward our agendas. I want to share with you some data about youth in foster care in Prince George's County, just to help you kind of paint a picture of what the environment's like and what some of the challenges might be as we try to move this work forward. We have 473 children in care, and that's down from, I think, 650 when I became the director. So we have focused a lot on the front door, how we bring children in, why we bring children in, and making sure that we're finding other resources for children as instead of bringing them in. And we've also focused on reunification and permanency for our children. We have, in FY 2014, we had 34 adoptions. I think we were just shy of our adoptions goal, but we had 46 guardianships, which is important to mention because that exceeded our goal. And when I tell you that 71% of our children range from age 13 to 20, it'll help you understand that by and large, our children are not very open to adoption most of the time. I find it just so intriguing, and it's been one of the eye-opening experiences for me that no matter what a child goes through with their biological family, they do not want to break that connection. And so guardianship has been an option that we have moved forward with our youth to help them have some sort of permanency. We have, like I said, 71% 13 to 20, 49% of our children are male, 51% female. You saw up there, one of the goals for the model court was the one judge, magistrate, one family. As part of that, we have a crossover youth project, and that's for children who are co-involved in both our programs at Social Services and the Department of Juvenile Services. We have 38 youth who are what we define as crossover youth. 63% male, 37% female, and the age range is 11 to 18. The average age at entry of care for our youth 16 to 20 is between 13 and 14. So to help you understand that, we have to help our children prepare. First of all, let's be realistic. 21 is not realistic for telling a young person, now you're on your own. I have a 27-year-old that I just got out of my house a year ago. So it takes time, and it takes that parental nurturing that many of our children don't have. It was interesting. We had a conversation with one of our youth a couple weeks ago as we were trying to help him work through some challenges. And one of the things he said was that he needed contact from an adult on a regular basis. And he's pretty much semi-independent, living in his own apartment, but he yearned for contact from an adult. He yearned for a check-in. Those boundaries that they push against, that they don't like, that's what he was wanting. And it kind of broke my heart because I understood exactly what he was saying. And as government, we don't do a great job of embracing and nurturing the child. And that's what helps when we talk about independence and success as adults. Those are key components to helping our children, our young people, be successful as they age out of foster care. One other couple points. As one of the goals that we talked about was around education, improved educational outcomes. And in the department, probably about 6 months ago, Stacy, we created a position that we deemed education liaison. And we have been getting this young man trained, connected with the school system, with providers, because we want him to go in and advocate for our children when it comes to education. We want this person to be what we are to our youth. And we know that our staff, our social workers, have 15 kids that they're advocating for, and so they don't give it the energy that one person focused on an issue can have, that can give it. So 2 minutes, I just got up here. So we created an education liaison to assist with that, and we also increased the number of independent living coordinators that we have in the department to work with our youth who are between 14 and 20. I've just been handed, this is, so Judge Martin mentioned the logo that we are redesigning, and we launched a contest with our foster youth, and this is the flyer. Please, we want, Chris has them. Okay, so we want you all to take them back to any that your networks. Email them to the foster youth that you're in touch with. Where's Anne-Marie? Yeah, we want you to email it so that we get as many kids involved. The prize is $200 right now. It could keep increasing. So, but this is a great opportunity for our kids to get involved. And we put the mission statement of the model courts in here too. So anyway, some other points they wanted me to make real quick. Approximately 58% of our children are school-aged and enrolled in pre-K through 12th grade. We have 14% of our kids are repeating the current grade. Most of those are ninth graders. And consistent with what the school system is seeing, there has to be an extra focus on that period between 8th and 10th grade to help our young people stay focused and stay on task. We have a significant number of our kids, 31%, approximately 1/3, are enrolled in college, including Prince George's Community College, Bowie State, Coppin State, University of Maryland. And that 42% male. 12% of our kids are involved in a GED program, and 19% of our kids are involved in a work experience internship or seeking employment. Of these, approximately 48% are female, 52% male. Yeah, and I already talked about the crossover. So, I think, it's important that you, for those of you who are not inside the department, understand what it looks like as this conversation progresses today, and get your creative juices going and flowing, so that when we talk about what else we need to do, you have that context. And then I'm handing it back to you. Oh, thank you.
She's got the mouse right there.
You can come up. I'm the tower power that Judge Martin was referring to. And I'm going to take this out because we're going to be co-presenting. We have Kay Bodgers Brown from the Department of Social Services She's the Assistant Director of the Department's Quality Assurance and Compliance Division. And then we have Carlton Fonville with Department of Human Resources, our State Independent Living Coordinator. And he's getting an applause because he was one of our workers in Prince George's County. Well, I'm not getting into that, but. Okay, so we're going to be kind of sharing the mic as we go through this presentation. Judge Martin went through a few of our slides, so that helps us as far as our time is concerned, our identified goals, and our mission. We're focusing, today is focused on goal number 3, to achieve better outcomes for what we say our older and transitioning youth. And I would just like to say that we had a retreat after the model court team was designated, and that's how we came up with our goals. We talked and talked and talked and discussed the issues that we saw as the stakeholders of what was going on with our youth and whether they were ready to be emancipated, whether they were ready to really live independent, and how we can reunify. So all of those goals, we initially started off with those 4. We broke up into groups, and that's how we identified our different committees. So I'm chairing the 3rd goal, as I mentioned, and basically we asked who we thought would be able to help us with the individual committees to help. And my particular committee meets once a month, every first Wednesday. So you'll be asked later if you would like to be a part of that or help us with that. And you'll get information about that later when you break out into your work groups. But we meet, and they are the most dedicated volunteers because really none of us were hired to actually do this particular piece. We each have our different jobs, the CASAs, the attorneys, the department, but they come faithfully every month, and they do work outside of that 1 month, emailing back and forth. So I do want to recognize them. If you have any questions, they're the ones with the little green button on their name cards, so please feel free to grab one of them if you have any questions after our presentation. When we first started meeting, we had to determine basically what areas we were going to concentrate on. And so we thought as our goal, each youth would have a transition plan that is meaningful, implementable, and individualized, because all of our youth are different, and they may have different needs. The plan shall include, but is not limited to, adequate housing. Basically, we just thought of what are the most important things. And housing is first, because it's nothing worse than a week before our youth, a month before even, when they're turning 21, they don't have anywhere to live. That's a hard place to be when they're in court and everyone's, they've been working on it, but things haven't really been stabilized yet. So that is number 1, housing. Appropriate job and employment, permanent adult connections. Ms. Brown spoke about that. Although they may not be reunified, they may not have anyone, but we really have to work on early on helping them connect the people that they can stay in touch with. They may not be able to actually reside with them, but if they have to wash clothes or they're coming home from spring break, places they can spend the holidays, those types of people, volunteers, mentors that will stay connected to our youth. Educational, vocational stability, resource connections, and I do want to mention, well, I'll get to that, survival documents and the clearing of criminal and delinquency impediments. And we found that when our youth has delinquency charges that are still lingering or criminal charges, if there's a way that they can be cleared up, expunged prior to them emancipating, that will help a lot in them getting housing, an apartment, a car, any of those things. Our 3 short-term goals, Emancipation Manual. This is our resource manual that we put together. There will be copies on each of our breakout tables if you want to look at them. And basically, that manual has a list of all the resources that we could think of in the county and some statewide, whether it be medical resources, housing resources, educational resources, a place where they're going to put all of their identifying information. We have it manual as a hard copy. We have it on a flash drive. We're in the process of doing our final revisions for another draft, and that will be electronically placed on the websites and with an app. The emancipation checklist, which we'll get into a lot of that later with the data, coordinate access to life skills resources. We've had 2 independent living fairs so far that the department and our CASA organization implemented. Our long-term goals, transitional planning hearings, we started that 2 or 3 years ago. Judge Martin is overseeing and hearing all of those cases. Our fast-track permanency pilot. As we were discussing our transitioning youth, we really thought that if we really worked at the beginning of their case, really put in those extra resources, then maybe we wouldn't even get to them emancipating out of the system. So we changed our practice somewhat. Prince George's County has pretty much at least 20-some years, even though we required back then 18-month review hearings, and then it was changed to 12-month review hearings, we've always had ours 6 months from the time of disposition. But we thought, even if we tried 2 or 3 months from the time of disposition, we could really see if the department and the family and all the stakeholders were working together early on to see if it would make a difference in them returning home. After we initiated the pilot, the law changed and said that we have to have those hearings 6 months from the time of removal. So we were kind of ahead of the law by 9 months, but we did initiate that pilot. That has not been analyzed yet to see if it worked. Our post-emancipation progress assessment. This is an area where we really need help. We've been getting information on how we would do that, how we will try to keep track of all of our youth to see really what they're doing 6 months, a year from emancipation. Our checklist, basically. We started off early on with implementing best practices, but what we said at the beginning is we need a way to see if it's really working. Is it really improving the lives of our youth, or are we just doing things, changing practices that really don't work? So we tried to figure out a way. We didn't know how, but we knew we needed to track the data. And that was from our emancipation checklist. You have a copy of that in your folders. And also to determine if the implementation improved the outcomes for our youth. Number 1, are they ready? And number 2, is the checklist helping us to improve the outcome? When we use the checklist, it is done by the judge or magistrate in court. When that youth turns about 18, every time they have a hearing, we go over the checklist just to make sure that we're staying on track with everything. The 6 months prior, we're really focusing on the housing and the employment, because they have housing if they're in care, pretty much. And a lot of our youth are still in school, so we want them to finish school, we want them to be employed. So we go over that checklist in court. Now that we've done the practice for a couple of years, we already have the answers pretty much. The department makes sure that they put the emancipation checklist or those items information, and our attorneys, the child's attorney talk to the youth before they get to court. But we still feel, although we're getting information from different sources, that it needs to be done in the courtroom so that, because sometimes what I may think is stable housing is different from what everyone else may think is stable housing. When we look at stable housing, we're looking to see if that youth has a place to stay at least 6 months, for the 6 months after he emancipates, not whether they have somewhere to stay for the week after they emancipate. Okay, we're going to get into some of our analysis. We did have the help from the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges and the School of Social Work, a professor there who helped us. So I'm going to turn this over to Kay.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, as Magistrate Jones indicated, we had the University of Maryland and the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges to help assist us with our data, analyzing our data. So the committee wanted to find out if the emancipation checklist actually resulted in improvements to emancipating youth stability. We were also interested in knowing what factors might have played a role. So the researchers' findings provided us with interesting data in the following areas. So gender, race, age at entry, age at exit from care, number of hearings attended, exit cohorts, and education. So we're going to take a little peruse through this data. So you have this handout in your packet. This demonstrates the 12 stability indicators that the courts assess the youth on. So as they filled out the checklist, these are the areas that they actually asked the youth what was the status. So we're looking at a response with a yes means that there's some stability there. The data represents the aggregate percentage of yes responses for each data point by cohort. So we looked at the baseline, which would be the orange, and then we compared that to 2 years. So it would be 2013 and then 2014. This is one cohort, 6 months. The second cohort of that year is another 6 months, and so on. So you can see where the yeses were falling for as the aggregate of that particular cohort. So you can see that just based on this, that we did make some progress. So let's look at some more data. So for gender, if we look at the population that we analyzed, we had 46% were female, 54% were male, and there was one gender difference in stability indicators, and that's that all criminal delinquency cases were resolved. So for females, we see that 89% of them were able to get those cases taken care of, and males were 61%. On race, we didn't have enough variation to really look at this when you look at the breakdown of our population. So 89% of the population that we looked at where they completed the checklist was African American. So it was really hard to look to see if race played a role in this. But you should note that it's interesting that in our regular foster care population, we have about 11% Latino Hispanic, but in our emancipation checklist, as we worked through that population, we didn't have any representation. So I thought that was interesting. The next slide looks at age. So we looked at two things, age at entry into foster care and age at exit. So there appears to be some differences based on age at entry in foster care. So for youth who enter ages 1 to 8, they showed 81% stability indicators when compared to other cohorts. If you look at it just year to year, there doesn't seem to be anything if you look at age coming in at age 1, age 2, but when you actually combine them into groups, you start to see that the younger children actually have higher indicators. For the youth at exit, older youth had a significantly higher percentage of stability. So at 21 years, they actually had presented more stability than the youth that were younger than that. So the number of hearings attended demonstrated that there was a relationship as you increase the number of hearings that you actually have more stability. And I don't necessarily know that I think that's surprising, but because they're doing the checklist, so as you have more hearings, you're completing the checklist, you're paying attention to it. So I think that probably makes sense. So this was a good finding. Oh dear. The applause was supposed to be on the next slide. Clearly, I did not test that. But let's see, I gotta go back. Okay, so on the exit cohorts, we made progress. So by completing the emancipation checklist, we actually saw an increase in stability. So this is the good news. When we started off with the baseline, we were at 57%. The first cohort for 2013 was 49%, but when we finished, we were up at 69%. We had a high of 72. Not sure what that variation is, but definitely we see some progress, so we think this works. All right, so stability indicators. There's a significant increase of these stability indicators since the implementation of the checklist, and these are the areas where we saw the most improvement: identifying core values, obtaining identifying documents, so this is birth certificate, social security cards, etc., obtaining medical insurance, and checking their credit score. That's where the applause should go to. And there we have something. I hope this isn't through the entire thing. The challenge, see, when you print it and you send it to everyone, not everyone does the play, so you don't know where it's at, so, oh well. Stability indicators that we really need to focus on, our challenged areas, are to be enrolled in an educational or vocational program, to have a high school diploma or GED, to have all of their criminal or delinquency cases resolved in the follow-up samples, to be employed or receiving other income, to have adequate housing, to have adequate access to behavioral health services, and to use them. So I want to highlight for you those that are in orange are common to the Ready by 21 survey that the State of Maryland Department of Human Resources looks at. So these are common areas, and that's a really good thing because that's almost all of them. So what's next? Come on. So we're going to tag team this. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So what's next? We want to jump into 4 areas that we identified, that the committee identified, that were important to look at, especially in this symposium.
Give you guys a little bit of background on the Ready by 21 exit survey that Ms. Kay mentioned earlier. How many of you are already familiar with that Ready by 21 exit survey that we implement? So it is a survey. I see a few hands. So it is a survey that we've implemented statewide. And one of the reasons is because we really want data. So we're excited actually at the state level to hear that you guys have implemented the emancipation checklist to really focus on how youth are exiting care and starting at 18. Because the the Ready by 21 exit survey, we use that as a tool to get feedback and data from youth who exit at 21. And we know that all youth don't always exit at 21. But since we've implemented the Ready by 21 exit survey, we have seen an increase in participation. So more youth are utilizing the survey or completing the survey, and it is informing the way we practice, specifically as it relates to the state initiatives, the Ready by 21 initiatives, which focuses again on some of the categories that we are going to address here today: housing, education, employment, mental health, connections with a supportive, positive adult, financial literacy, as well as medical and mental health services. So as she stated earlier, one of the things that we're looking at through the collection of not only Prince George's County data, but our data from our end is how can we improve services for youth. She talked a little bit about some of the challenges, and one of the things that we did was compare both tools, both the Emancipation Checklist data and the Ready by 21 exit survey. Now that survey is something that we use for the youth, so we get the youth feedback, and they answer the questions according to where they are at the time of exit from care. And if you guys want to look at an example or sample of the survey, I brought the survey with me, so I have handouts. Also have some data and some trends related to the survey. So for the next steps, in comparison both data, we started with the housing, and we looked at how the state's data when youth exit at 21 compared with the emancipation checklist data. And what we see is that according to our data, the tool that we use, 82% of the youth that we surveyed actually have housing post 21. So, that's not the best data. Of course, we want that percentage to be 100, but it's an indicator of where we are now and where we need to go and how we're going to get there. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Prince George's emancipation?
Sure. And so the baseline when we first did this was 85%. And then when we compared that to the other cohorts, you can see that. Sure.
Just want to clarify, when we say the baseline data, when this committee started, we pulled files, and because we weren't doing a checklist. So basically, the information that we could find in the files, that's what we used for our baseline. We went back 18 months, so the committee and the juvenile staff went through, if they could find any indication in the court reports or the court orders, that's what we used. So, if someone say, yeah, I had a place to live, it may not be reflective of, do they have a place to live 6 months from now? So I wanted to mention that.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So you can see how the different cohorts, the 6-month intervals that kids emancipated compare to when we started. And we're right about on target with where the state data shows. One of the things I think is important to note with the emancipation checklist that it's 100% completed. So for every youth that leaves care, there's a checklist completed, except for those youth who are on runaway status when we have a difficult time pulling that data. So we're able to, feel really confident that we're getting a good number here because every youth is included in the survey.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. The next slide talks about educational data. And of course, looking at the state data and the state indicators, Maryland, we looked at the all youth or all adolescents for the state of Maryland who both in foster care and out of foster care. And it was discovered that 86%, it rose, the 4-year graduation rate rose to 86% between the academic school year of 2013 and 2014. So how does that compare with the Ready by 21 survey? Well, our stats show for youth in foster care, for the most part, we're at 73% of youth are able to attain their high school diploma. Again, not the best data, but it is an indication of what we need to focus on and how do we move our initiatives forward. At the bachelorette level or the associate's level, by the time they exit care, it was only at 2%. But of course, we know that the numbers for youth who are taking advantage of the ETV, the educational tuition voucher, and the Maryland tuition waiver, those numbers are increasing. Because what we're doing a lot more now is promoting readiness and preparation for college or for post-secondary educational programs. So we're working with the College Bound, we're working with a lot of other initiatives to really figure out what we can do as a state to promote post-secondary educational attainment for our youth.
For those of you who like to add the numbers, they don't add up to 100% because a youth could do more than one category.
Right.
I know you're out there. So the education and vocational data for the emancipation checklist, it demonstrates that we may have done better in the baseline years than we did in our follow-up years. So we definitely have some work cut out for us to make sure that youth, really work towards getting a GED or a diploma, and really having some stability in that education or vocational areas.
And utilizing the data, on one hand, not only to just increase enrollment and academic attainment or achievement, but also looking at those skills that our youth need to be successful in school, like improving and enhancing their self-confidence, understanding how to navigate the college process or navigate the financial aid process, which can be confusing and complicated. So we're not only looking at those soft skills, but really trying to figure out how can we utilize what we do now as a practice. We have the life skills classes that are happening across the state. How can we kind of tailor that to really focus it on those skills and enhance and develop those skills on the front end before youth gets enrolled, so that they can have that confidence level by the time that they are in school or post-secondary educational program. So for the unemployment, we looked at the national and the state employment data. As you can see, they're pretty similar. There's some similarities, or they're close in similarities. It's 6.7% in 2013 compared to the state of Maryland data, which is 6.1%. And then according to the Ready by 21 exit survey, youth, it indicated that 47% have employment or a job by the time that they leave care, which is really, really low again. And that's something that we need to look at enhancing. So a lot of my responsibility now has been working with other types of care systems, such as Dollar, the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulations, to really working with their work group to really focus on, well, how can we invite employers? How can we recruit business owners to employ our youth and offer apprenticeships, offer on-the-job-based training for our youth, and understanding the dynamics that come with our youth, that, you know, they're different from some other at-risk populations because they are dealing with trauma, they're dealing with just the realities of being in care, and they also have this time frame where they have to leave care at 21. They have the option of leaving care at 21. So we're not only informing all our stakeholders, but we're also out working with other state agencies to inform them about our population so that they can tailor their services according to the needs of our youth.
So for the emancipation checklist data, it's pretty similar to the Ready by 21 survey. It looks like in July to December of 2013, we dipped really low there. But we still, you know, again, have work to do in this area. And, you know, you guys watch the news, so you know that, you know, youth that are coming out of high school and youth that are trying to get summer jobs, you know, teens, they're all struggling. So we know our population is having a really difficult time competing for those jobs and being able to maintain those jobs.
The mental health data, one of the things, as you can see, that it's pretty low. When you look at approximately 80% of children who are in foster care have a need for mental health services, but only 18 to 20% actually receive that service. It's not necessarily because the service isn't available or they haven't been referred. Sometimes, a lot of times, I see in my courtroom that they don't believe they need it, that there's really is a cultural impediment. They say, well, I'm not crazy. And so we really need everyone's help in trying to get them to understand that if they had a physical ailment, they would receive treatment. So mental health is very important, and that without getting the services that they need, that can really prevent them from moving forward. So I just wanted to mention that we do need more services, but that low indicator is not just because we don't have enough. We can make the referrals, and we do make the referrals. It's just that sometimes they don't want to partake in the services.
And it is another point. It is interesting because when we talk about mental health services and we talk to about mental health services to youth do have, you know, that they believe in that stigma that, oh, I don't need mental health services. But then when we provide them the opportunities to kind of talk about their experiences, share their stories, then they gravitate towards that. So they want to get that out of them. They want to be able to share their experiences, talk about some of the traumas that they've been able to survive from. But they want to do it in a setting that's more informal. So that's one of the things that we're looking at too is, well, how can we, you know, utilize this approach more? Is it something that we need to talk to some of the mental health providers about? Something that we feel like we could do ourselves, because our youth do want that opportunity to be able to talk about some of their traumas, because it is, if you think about it, it is very, very enlightening for them and us when they share their stories and they talk about some of their traumas, and it also helps them normalize the situation. When they talk about their traumas or their experiences, and they see other youths either share some of those same experiences or they start to support each other, then it's uplifting for that, it's empowering for that youth.
Let me make one point of clarification. So the data that's on the first part of the slide is national data. So this is foster care youth across the nation, and this is research that we found that supported that. On the checklist, we didn't measure mental health, so we don't have information on that, and that'll be one of the areas that the committee will be challenged in trying to figure out how they obtain that information and have that discussion with the youth. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear. That's not Prince George's County data. So recommendations for moving forward. I'm going to hand it back over to Magistrate Jones.
I mentioned earlier the post-assessment plan for our youth and stakeholders. We had tried, Judge Martin had sent out a survey trying to assess how the transitional planning hearings were done. But overall, we need some of your input on how to get the feedback and also keeping in touch with our youth who emancipate. So that is an area that we're going to work on. That was also recommended by our research analysts that helped us review and revise the emancipation checklist and to include follow-up questions and also provide training on its usage. We had started off with that with our committee and we sent it out, but I think we need to periodically go through the emancipation checklist to make sure that everyone understands the exact questions that we're asking. And some questions may need to be added, such as mental health, substance abuse. Focus meetings with system stakeholders. We are starting that today with our breakout sessions, and you'll be asked if you'd like to meet or be willing to meet with the committee, which will be approximately a quarter. The committee meets once a month, so there may be one meeting dedicated to housing, and the next meeting may be dedicated to employment, education, and mental health. So if you're willing to come and share your thoughts, your resources, your time, we would really appreciate that. And I'll put a plug in for the other committees as well. If you have a desire to help the other committees, I'm sure that they wouldn't turn down your assistance. Observe court practice to see how judicial officers are using the checklist. Our researchers were interested in that because they want to make sure that we're using it the same way. I know we sent around, I sent around a list of how I use it, and I think it is pretty consistent, at least with the magistrates. We have the bulk of the youth coming before us. So it's consistent, but some of those follow-up questions, especially if we have a youth in front of us and he says, I went on 5 interviews, I haven't gotten a job yet. Well, it could be the economy, but it also could be that they're not dressing properly. They don't know how to go in and shake someone's hand, look them in the eye, those types of things. So we do need to do some follow-up questions. And collaboration with our state Department of Human Resources to use model court emancipation checklist data to inform the revision of the assessment tools. As you see, some of our data is not a straight comparison. We may be collecting some of the same things, but in order to really compare our state with our local government, our local foster youth, we need to kind of collaborate and work together with that. And this is our contact information. I think at least you may know one of us, so feel free to contact us. And just to thank Dr. Corey Shadema from the University of Maryland School of Social Work, who helped us with this, Dr. Alicia Summers, who's from the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, and of course, Kay. Melissa Biggs, our own principal research analyst here at the court. When she came on board, she was supposed to be coming periodically to help us, but she just fell right into the committee. She's there every month, and I call on her whenever I need her. And to Family Division staff who really helped collect the data, Ellie Carney, the Emancipation Checklist Police. If one of us hasn't turned in a checklist, that final order doesn't get signed until she has it. Lakeisha Muhammad, when we started this, the research analysts wanted more information. How many hearings the youth attended, the age, when they actually emancipated, extra things that we really didn't have on a checklist. So she was very helpful in pulling that data, going back and looking through court orders and going back and looking through the files. So I believe our time is up and we're finished. Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, really quickly, lastly, if you guys want to see the Ready by 21 exit survey, feel free to come talk to me. Also, I have some infographics of some of the data according to the responses that we've already received of the Ready by 21 exit survey. Thank you.
And hopefully you will, at some point in time, go to Connect My Life, which is the site created for the Ready by 21 program. I see our clerk of the court, Mr. Sidney Harrison, is present. Hello. And what I want to do at this point in time, someone who is deep into these issues and really concerned about our youth, while she takes care of a lot of other things, is our Senator Joanne Benson. And I won't even go into our telephone call with me, but she was insistent that she needed to share with everyone some of her work.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's really a pleasure for me to be here, but it's even a greater pleasure for me to hear that there are people who are really serious about our children. I want to pause for this moment and thank Judge Martin, Judge Sheila Adams, Miss Gloria Brown. I don't know where to start talking about Gloria Brown. She and I work very, very closely together on issues that impact our children, and I want to publicly thank her for the work that she does. I want to thank all of you who are in this room this morning as we talk about foster children. This task that we're talking about this morning is very challenging. It's very challenging. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I do serve in the Senate for the Prince George's County in the great state of Maryland. I am the only woman senator from Prince George's County. I serve with 7 married men. And those of you who know me know that that's not a problem. I want to just begin by telling you about this bill that you have in your packet. And if you look in your folder, you will see a Senate Bill 685. That is the bill. I'm sorry, am I doing something here? Okay, thank you so much. That is the bill that I put in this session. You need to understand just a little history here. I was told that I had 45 minutes. Is it 45 minutes? Or is it 10 minutes? Or only 10? Okay, so I'll talk quick. By profession, I am an educator. I served in the Prince George's County Public Schools for 40 years. And so you need to understand that children are very dear to this heart of mine. I live it and I breathe it. I'm concerned about children and I'm concerned about senior citizens. That's why I went to Annapolis. Not for the glitz and glitter, not to be seen, but to try to take care of the business so life will be better for our children. This session, about 15 agencies, and some of them are in this room, who worked with foster children came to visit me. And they talked with me about a growing concern about foster children. As a matter of fact, I had the opportunity to talk to a number of foster children, also adults who had been in foster care, and so they shared their concerns with me. They talked about the things that were good. Most importantly, that they had an opportunity to go to college, but there weren't too many things that they were able to cheer about. And so, as a result of what they said to me, I got together with the lawyers in Annapolis, and we crafted the bill that you see in your folder. And this bill aims to address the growing concern of foster youth lacking the education, you all saw the data, public benefits, services, and rights available to them. I want to go back and tell you that the advocates for these children said, Senator Benson, there is a tremendous gap. There seems to be a disconnect in services, and we need to find a way to connect the dots. And so, youth who age out of foster care experience, here's what they experience. High unemployment, you all saw it. Low incomes. Low rate of high school completion. High rates of mental illness. Let me stop right there. If you all look at the budget, I'm going to ask everybody in this room, when we go into session next year, we cannot sit around and hope that things will happen for children if we're serious. We need to have ourselves down in Annapolis talking with the legislators, but more importantly, sending notes to the governor to tell him about the urgency of taking care of our children who are meeting mental health challenges. And you know what? It's understandable that these foster children have that problem. When you feel abandoned, think about it for a minute. When you feel abandoned by your parents, you have no family, that to me would cause me mental anguish. You have to stop every once in a while and put yourself in these young people's place. Mental illness, high rates of homelessness. That was a big problem that the advocates expressed to me. And so, many of these children leave foster care. They age out, but thank goodness we are able to have them to have a process now where they can stay in the program until at least the age of 26. But many do not have driver's license. They don't have health insurance information, medical records, birth certificates, Social Security cards, or a state-issued identification. Prince George's County, from what I see here, is moving in a very positive and wonderful direction. But I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this does not prevail all over the great state of Maryland. Lack of information is a very important factor for these youngsters. Many of our current and former foster care youth are unaware of the services available. As a result of them not having access to the services and also a knowledge of what's available, here's what happens. They're at risk of mental and physical and behavioral health problems, unemployment, criminal victimization, pregnancy, sexual exploitation, incarceration, emergency shelters, and they end up with public assistance. So here's what my bill does. It requires social services to counsel youth leaving care on assessing housing, educational opportunities, health insurance, and other critical resources, to also provide the youth with vital documents. Now, I must also tell you this much, and I'm saying to the people in Annapolis, I sit on the Finance Committee. I also work very closely with budget and taxation, and I am saying to them that this work that you see up here, the Foster Youth and Symposium, and everyone who's working, the model court team, these people can, and I'm being very serious, we can't nickel and dime this thing. We've got to be sure that the resources are available, that Ms. Brown and the people who are working even our court system, everybody has the resources to take care of this problem. We need additional staff to do the work. We cannot just put it on paper. We need to be real about this thing. And so that's what I say with a loud, clear voice. Words on a piece of paper are fine, but it's the action. It's when the rubber hits the road. We cannot afford to keep having our youngsters come down here to Upper Marlboro because we have not provided the necessary resources. And I have to also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, at some point in time, we do, in fact, need to hold parents accountable for some of our foster care children. Another important component is the issue that a child will have stable housing for at least 12 months after the date of emancipation, which is the age of 18. A child should be advised of the right to re-enter if they leave at the age of 18 or 21. Let me also say before I sit down, and I want to do this as quickly as possible because a lot has been said here. We have to have a closer relationship also with our school system. We cannot wait until the youngsters are 13 years old. Anybody who knows a 12 and 13-year-old know that it's almost too late to do anything. Our children, if you look at the data, have made up their mind as to what they're going to do in life, even dropping out of school, is by 5th grade. Y'all are looking at the data, you know that. So we now have to work closely with our school system to ensure that the school system is on board. We need to have the school system also to be in a position to help us to recognize the foster care children who are having mental health issues. And we have to be sure that the staff in schools are trained to a point where they're able to differentiate between mental health and behavior. That is something that we need to do. We also need to work closely with our churches. One of the most important institutions in our community are our churches. And we need to work with our churches so that they can be a part of the process. I know in many of our churches, we do have ministries that deal with children who are in foster care, also children who are in crisis. So we have churches who are doing a wonderful job. So we have to bridge that gap between everybody has to be working for the good of these foster care children. We need to be sure that our youngsters understand what it means to have mental health services. You know, children are excellent body readers. They can read when you care about them and when you don't. I was in a school the other day, and there's a youngster who, the principal told me that the youngster came to school every day crying. And I said, well, where is he? She said, he's out in the hall, sitting on the floor, and he is crying. So I said, well, let me have a word with him, please. So I went out, and I began to talk about his shoes. I began to talk about how he looked, the positive things. I asked him to please stand. He stood. And I took a napkin, a Kleenex, and wiped his face because he was crying. I had a conversation with him. And before it was all over, this baby's attitude began to just make a turn for the better. I walked with him down the hall, and then I said, you know what? You just remind me of Barack Obama. What did I say that for? He lit up like a Christmas tree, and all of a sudden, he began to smile. Now, the people in the office were shocked. They were shocked when, as a matter of fact, they were shocked to a point where a guy ran down the hall, took his camera out, and took a picture. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have to find a way to reach our children. We can do that, but we have to have it in our hearts. The foster care children, and the reason why I did, in fact, put this bill in, I could go page by page, but I won't do that this morning because you all are intelligent and you can read it. Whatever I can do to help with this program, I am certainly prepared to do it. But I do have to say to you that in order for us to really do a good job, we have to ensure that the resources, and when I talk about resources, I'm talking about adequate staff, and I'm talking about money. We have to have the financial resources, we have to have the staff to pull this off. We can write this stuff down on a piece of paper from now until, but until we have the fire in our belly and the resources to do the job, we are still blowing in the wind. I do not want to see our children down here in Upper Marlboro. Let me reiterate that. I really want the judges, no offense to you all, I want you all to be put out of business. That's what I want. I know you all have plenty of money. You don't have to be down here. But I don't want to see our children coming down to Upper Marlboro because we have not done what we're supposed to do, and we have not worked closely with the parents. Because at some point in time, we do, in fact, need to recognize that the parents are the children's first teacher. And a lot of our children are in foster care for many, many reasons. You all know the reasons. But we have to find a way to reach parents or to reach family members who care about these foster children. Whatever I can do, let me reiterate, I sit on the finance committee in Annapolis, and whatever I can do to help, I am prepared to do it. I see that that Delegate Wilson is here. I think that he might want to bring himself up here, a strong, powerful advocate for children. And we want to bring him up here at this point in time. And what I didn't say, I want him to say, and ladies and gentlemen, before he speaks, I want you to know that I did, in fact, prepare his speech. A young married man.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can I see by some hands how many foster youth we have out here today? Outstanding. Well, I see a few of y'all. I'm actually here to speak to you guys today. I'm Delegate C.T. Wilson. Some of y'all know me. Some of y'all don't. I grew up as a foster child. I'm not just an advocate for kids. I was a kid, just like everybody else here. But I was a foster child as well. And the oldest of 17 children. I spent years and years bouncing in and out of foster homes. So I'm a lawyer now. I have 3 children. I have a wife who loves me sometimes. I have a happy life. I'm a state delegate. I'm the first African American ever elected in the history of Southern Maryland to represent state and to hold state office. And I'm not saying that because I need accolades. For those of y'all that know me, I'm zealously arrogant enough. I'm saying that because I'm nobody special. I had a tough life. I know we're here today to talk about your independence, and that's very important. And I'm sure you heard a great deal of the preparations that we've done at the state level. You know, every year that I've been up there, I've been blessed to bring foster children up to testify about their bills. I do that for a reason. Not because the bill's going to pass or fail, because good Lord knows my bills tend to die, but because I need y'all to know you have a voice in your life. That's very important because I remember growing up that way, and I remember being moved from home to home for absolutely no reason. Not being told that I was leaving, not being told when my last day was, just seeing my bags packed when I get home from school. I know what it's like to not have a voice. I don't want y'all to feel that way. We've got legislation passed about schools, making sure you have free tuition up until the age of 26. That's the first bill I got passed when I got elected. But I need you to take advantage of it. The numbers every year drop of the number of foster kids. You get free college tuition. I put in a bill 2 years ago to make sure that starting at the age of 13 that the state has to notify you of all your benefits so you'll know what to look forward to, because no matter how dark it is right now, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's called freedom. It's called when you can decide your fate and choose your destiny. Because I know right now it doesn't seem like you can, but that day is coming. We're trying to lay out all that path to make it as easy as possible. Set aside jobs, and we have a great clerk of the court here. This is not my county, but this is my man, Sidney Harrison, who's also a former foster child. And we're trying to do that not only at the state level, set aside programs for foster kids, because you're the wards of our state. If I own a law firm, my daughter will be working at my law firm one day, whether she's qualified to or not, because that's the way parents treat their children. You are the wards of our state. We're going to do the same for you. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. And Sydney's going to do the same thing in this county, so we're going to use this as a prototype till my county gets right. But all that to say, that's not really the reason I'm here, okay? I'm not really here to talk to you about the wonderful things the state's doing, because you got to have your own back. All right, you're never going to see me here blow smoke up anybody's rear end, because I'm in Annapolis, and I see all the bills that I put through that fail. I see some of the most nonsensical, just unnecessary bills passed every year. When we try and put bills in to help kids, not pity kids, but provide opportunity, they fail because they put a dollar amount behind it, they call it an unfunded mandate, and they say no thank you. I see that many of you are just a number, not to me, but generally. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I have 2 minutes left. Y'all gonna be disappointed. All right, anyway. The point is these bills fail because foster care is not sexy. There's no big movement to save it. Very few people even think about it on a regular basis. Fewer politicians ever think about it. So I need to know what you're gonna do. Because everybody in this room can let you down. That doesn't mean you deserve to fail. The world doesn't change, we change it. Because at the end of the day, nobody got my back. People always ask me, Sydney asked me when I was writing that book, well, nobody had my back. Nobody. That don't mean nothing. That means you get up when you fall, you dust yourself off, and you continue to walk. If they let you down, that's fine. That's life. You position yourself to make a difference and make change. The number one way to do that, I know you get talked at all the time, but man, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Educating yourself. I'm Delegate C.T. Wilson. The only reason I got elected down in that county is because I was also a lawyer. So you can't say I'm not smart enough. I served 8 years in my country, so you can't say I'm not a patriot. I laid the foundation because I knew that I had to get my back, and if I failed, it was my responsibility. I ran for office because I knew what it was like to struggle and to just be a number. But I wanted to make a difference in your lives too. I want to know you're not alone. I'll tell you what, I'm not enough. I've seen that. 5 years, I've seen myself spitting into the wind. So you need to hurry up. And you need to make your mind up. And you need to look around you and realize that if nobody else gets your back, that you will get your own back. We will lay as many resources out there as we can. But you got to look deep inside, because that's where it counts. There's nothing that I can do for you that you cannot do for yourself. So I need you to really get it together and think. If you're exiting out, what you going to do? It can be something small. Start out with something small. I didn't start out as a lawyer. I was a horrible high school student. I barely graduated. But I went to the Army. I saw other people live in other countries and realized I have a blessed life. I came back to this country with a sense of wonder. I graduated 4.0 in undergrad, top of my class in law school. Not because I'm smart, because God knows if you know me, I'm not the brightest bulb, but I will never give up. I will never stop trying. I will lose all the sleep I need to, because I am going to succeed, and my children will never suffer the indignities that I suffered or that you may suffer. So you position yourself. Don't pass this along. Don't start a family till you're ready. Be the young titans that you were meant to be and make that change, because you can't complain and make that change. You have to stand up and make that change yourself. Thank you.
What a pleasure it was to hear from our own Senator Benson and Delegate C.T. Wilson. It is now time for a break. It says 10 minutes. If we could try to push it to 5 so we could get back on schedule, we're not that far off. You can use the restrooms. If there's any breakfast left, if you didn't get any, feel free. But please come back into the room so we can really start to work. Thank you.